Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Meredith, one of the Husqvarna Viking educators. I am so excited you guys are joining us tonight. This is our first ever evening class. I was really excited about this. I had talked with my boss about this a couple months ago, and I was like, hey, we should do a nighttime live. And then they were like, all right, great, you're going to do it. And I was like, okay, great. So here we are. We're doing a nighttime live. I'm excited about it. I hope you are getting settled in, get settled down. I would love to know where you guys, what store is your home store, whether it's a Viking Sewing Gallery or a dealer. Give a shout out to them and let them know that you're here watching. And then also just a few reminder things. Any spam, since we haven't done a nighttime live before, I'm not sure how spam will be, but Ryan and Amy are here. Thank them again for staying late today and doing this with me. It's not just me tonight, it's them. They decided to stay late with me also to help me in the background. So shout out to them as well, but they'll take care of any of that spam. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in and they can send those over to me and we'll get them answered. But if there's not anything else, I would love to know also what y'all watch. Do you watch something in the evening when you sew? When I sew in the evening, y'all are going to laugh at me. I'm an old soul at heart and I love to watch the Game Show Network and watch. If my mom is watching this, she's going to be laughing at me right now that I actually said this. I love watching the Game Show Network. They're old episodes of whatever's on, and I don't have to focus on them, but it's just, I don't know, that's just what I like. I can't watch a show and sew if I need to pay attention to that show. So do you watch something? Do you listen to music? What do you do to stay focused when you sew in the evening? And then we're just going to get going here. So the first thing I'm going to show you tonight is this is our self-care live is the way I sort of wanted to go with it with the evening and whatnot. So we're going to start with an eye mask, but it's not just any regular eye mask. It is one that I get bad migraines. And when I get them really bad. So I have this like cold cap that I put on my face, but it's not very comfortable. And so I was like, I want to come up with something that will help with that. So it's an eye mask, but it also has this little insert. It has a pocket on the back where you can insert in the same shape as your eye mask. And you can put this in the freezer. So I have rice in it. And then I did some essential oil lavenders in it. But I have this special fabric too. It's called Solarize. It's like this right here. I got it off of Amazon. I don't think I've ever seen it. Amy and I were talking about this. I don't think I've ever seen it at a craft store before. But I got it on Amazon. It shipped to me really quickly. But it's like insulated for heat and cold. So you could stick it in the microwave if you're putting rice in it. And actually, can you? Let me see. Since it's foil, I'm not sure. I think it says it keeps things warm, but I don't know that I would stick it in the microwave. But I don't do heat on my eyes. I do cold. So I just take this piece and stick this in my freezer. And then on the back side, it has a little like pocket. And that's what I'm going to show y'all how to make tonight, that you can put it in there and take it out. And then you've got this nice cozy eye mask, and it also puts pressure. You can decide how tight or loose you want the elastic to be. So if you want it to be a little bit tighter, so you have that pressure of that cold pushing on your forehead and your eyes, that helps as well. Debbie says she listens to podcasts when I do that in the car. I will listen to podcasts. So that's a good idea to do that when you're sewing, because you don't have to look at anything. You can just listen and focus on that. So that's a good suggestion, Debbie. And then Joyce, oh, thank you. She said, thanks for doing an evening event. It's great for those who work. Yes. And I'm excited to see how this live does. Like I said, this is the first time we've done an evening live. So if this goes well and y'all enjoy them, we may do more of them in the future. I'm working on the 2024 calendar for all of the lives for the rest of the year. So we will definitely, if this goes well, we'll tie in some more evening classes for you. But again, these are always recorded and you can go back and watch them. You can ask questions on them as well. We as the educators, we go back and we look at them about a week or so afterwards. And if questions come up following, they get sent to us if we can answer them, things like that. So please don't hesitate to ask questions on a recording of a live either. So keep that in mind. So we are going to get to it. So I'm going to switch over here. I've got my pieces already set up here. We're going to start with this guy today. So for the eye mask, I just got a template from an eye mask that I have at home. Amy had a good suggestion also, because she's like, does everybody have eye mask? And I don't believe everybody probably wears an eye mask, but if you have sunglasses, you could get the same shape. It's a pretty easy shape to do. You could get the same shape from sunglasses and make them a little bit wider. I wanted a wider mask so that it covered more of my forehead, again, to put that pressure when I have those bad migraines. So here's the template we're going to have. And we are going to have one front piece out of the entire template like that. And then we're going to have two of our pocket pieces, the back pieces. So on mine, I folded, it's probably about a third. This is probably about a third of the entire pattern piece, a little bit more. I folded and I did a cutout of that here. So you see that, and I just unfolded it so I didn't actually cut my pattern piece, but then I stopped. So I've got that piece there, and then you want one for the other side as well. So just like that. So you'll have two of those, and then we're going to have our band piece. So this again is just based off of the measurement that you want. So my head measures, and if I have a big head, I think I have a big head, so don't laugh at me when I tell you this number. My head measures 22.5 inches. So this piece right here, I think is actually a little bit more. It's, what is it? Did I not write that one down? I don't see it on here. It's a little bit more, I believe. Actually, it's a little bit less. It's 21. But when you put elastic in it, it's going to shrink in anyway. And it just depends on how much. It's hard to tell on this one, but it just depends on how much like ruffle, how much gather you want. So you can make it as long or as, I wouldn't go very short. But this will work because I'm going to stretch it out around. Yes, actually yes. Okay. So what we're going to do first, we're going to do this strap first, and this is the easy part here. We're going to just put these right sides together and sew all the way across. So I'm going to switch over here. Oh, what fabric is this? So I'm using minky fabric today. I am a big advocate of using what you already have if you have something scrap-wise in your stash. So these are leftover from those minky blankets. You get them in like rolls of 12 inches. And so it actually works out really good because these measure out to 4 inches wide. So I was able to cut everything I needed from one strip. But it's the leftovers I have from those minky kit blankets. But you can get minky fabric at your local crafts fabric store as well. So that's what we're using today. And I am going to be using just the 8 foot. I'm going to switch over here so you can see this. And I have my IDF engaged, my integrated dual feed engaged. If you do not have a machine that has the IDF, that is okay. You will want to use your walking foot. It gives the same purpose of your feed dogs moving as well as this top. Basically, it's another feed dog that moves the fabric on top. So that's what we're going to do today. I am going to sew this at a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch seam, and we're just going to sew straight down. Let's see there. And so I'm going to go, what am I at about? Almost about 1/2 of an inch, in between 1/2 and 1/4 of an inch there. Got my cord in my way just a second. Here we go. So we're going to start here at the beginning. It's going to go, and then I'm going to reverse because I am going to turn this. So I want to lock in those stitches so that when I turn it, it doesn't come undone. And when I did that, let me stop with my needle down. Lift that up and push that back in the back. Until that IDF gets on it. It wants to bunch up. Come on, get going there. Scoot back over. All right, now that my IDF is on it, you can see that it is moving smoothly and easily. And we're just going to go all the way down, making sure our fabric is lined up the edges. This fabric can be a little bit tricky to work with because it wants to move on you. So feel free to use pins or clips as you go if you haven't ever worked with it before. And then also I'm using the 8 foot because it has a wider surface area. If you used 1/4 inch, you can tell it doesn't have as much surface area to put over the fabric, which I think helps move this slick fabric a little bit easier as well. So just like that. And if you see this guy moving in the back, he's the guy that's making it move evenly with the bottom. So that when you come to the end, everything lines up perfectly. You don't have like your top piece is further out than your bottom piece. It's all evenly fed. And we're going to back stitch there, go forward, and then we're going to cut. So super easy there. We're going to turn this now. So you can do this. There's a little turning tool. Minky is really easy to turn because it kind of just slides on itself. So you could almost just turn it just that way all easily like that just by pushing it through. But I have these they're literally forceps that I got online, and I just shove them all the way in, and I clip it right there in the end, and then I pull it through. Just like that. And there we go. There's our first band. Just like that. Super easy, super quick. All right, now we're going to put elastic in it. So this again is just based off of how stretchy or not, or how tight or how not tight you want it to be. So I take a piece of elastic and I am going to just push it all the way through. Let me get let's try it this way. I haven't tried it this way, but you could do a big safety pin on it and push it through. We're going to try doing it this way and see if this works. I have never tried it, so let's try it. So we're going to push this in, but we want to make sure that the tail part of our elastic does not go through. I don't think it's going to, actually. Not yet, at least. So there's the end of our elastic right there. Super easy. So I'm going to unclip that. And then what we're going to do, we are going to sew this together right here. And I'm not going to worry about this yet. I'm just going to leave this how it is and make sure that it doesn't go all the way through. So switch back over here. And I'm just doing a straight stitch, but I'm going to do it back and forth a couple times. And again, I'm about a quarter or about a half an inch, a little bit less than a half an inch in. See, this is why I keep doing this and not meaning to. Whenever you do this, you don't necessarily want to go all the way to the end, because what will happen is it will start to bunch up that fabric underneath. So you just go close to the end and then back forward. I'm going to go backwards a little bit, and then we're going to stop there, because I'm going to sew this into my mask also, so it'll be held securely as well. So there we go. There's the one piece in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the rest of this. Let me switch over here. It'll be easier to show you. Pull this until I think I've got it about where I want it. And you can hold it up to your head if you want to also. Let me show you. Switch here. So I'm going to look goofy doing this, but it's just my way of measuring. If it's for me or for my little one or whatever it may be, I'm just going to sort of hold it up, and it's going to go right here on the sides. And so if you feel, you can sort of feel, does it feel too tight? Does it feel too loose? I think this feels pretty good. And you can always add, if you don't cut it off, tighten it or loosen it before you get done. So this is just eyeballing it. There's no right or wrong to it. You can always make another one. So just like that. And then we're going to top stitch across there. So same thing. I'm going to start a little bit in my fabric, and this same concept of sewing with my minky, which I've got a bunch up here. What do we have going on here? Hold on a second. I heard some clinking, so we want to make sure. Let's cut this, and we're going to rethread it before we keep going. So while I tell you this, the same concept with working with minky, you're going to work with terry cloth as well. So you never really start right at the end. I start a little bit in and then go backwards so that it doesn't get sucked in. Sucked in down to the bottom. There we go. And we'll just make sure while I'm here, my bobbin's in tension as well. Super easy. I think it was because I had tails. I had too long of tails and it got caught up there is really what it was, but it never hurts to check. There we go. And then cut that there. Super quick, super easy. Cut all these little tails at the other end here. And then we're going to cut our elastic and switch back over here. So here we go. There is our band piece, just like that. Super easy. So now we're going to sew our mask together. What we're going to do first is we are going to take our two like half piece sections, and we are going to fold right sides together just about 1/2 inch. That's all I'm going to do, just straight stitch down so that I have let me show you on this one. I have a clean finished edge for my fold over where it is, so that I don't have any fraying or anything like that. This material doesn't really fray. It does make a mess when you first cut it because you got little pieces everywhere. I've got little pieces everywhere from cutting this purple. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do just a 1/2 inch fold over. Y'all doing good? Are you following? Any questions? Anybody else want to tell us what they watch or listen to while they sew? So, and no rhyme or reason for my seam allowance, honestly, because you're not going to see it on this fabric, but I probably do about 1/4 inch over. And I grabbed my wrong piece over here. I need to grab my other half piece. And then I'm just going to chain piece these two together here. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly 1/2 inch. It can be less, more. Let's get that under there. There we go. That's the thing about minky and terry cloth as well, is it is very forgiving. Especially the fabric I used on the first one that I did. There it goes. The threads just hide really well into this fabric. There we go. All right, so there is our two pieces. Let me get my scissors to cut that all over here. Cut those guys there. So here we go. We've got our two back pieces. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our main mask piece down. Then we're going to take our elastic piece, which I need to cut all these threads on this one too. Oh, come on. Okay. We are going to line it up right here, and I'm going to get some clips just right in the middle. But we want it to be on top because we're going to flip this when we get done sewing it all the way around. So I'm going to clip this on the side here. You could use pins. I feel like clips are a little bit easier if you've got them. And we want to make sure like that bulk where it's scrunched in is actually stretched out so that you don't have any extra fabric there than what you need. So just like that. We're going to leave that in the center. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take these pieces right side down. And it doesn't matter if you do left or right first. I'm going to clip this piece now in over here. And then I like to clip down where the ends are as well. And line them up. It's going to be a little finicky because you have that bulk from your band in there, but just make it work with you. And then we're going to take our second piece and same thing, put it down here. I'm going to clip this here and clip both of these. Just like that. And I'm going to adjust these two now and catch all 3 layers. There we go, just like that. And we're not going to leave an opening on this because our opening is going to be our little sleeve that we just did. So we're going to sew all the way around this mask now. And there's no rhyme or reason for where you want to start it. I like to start on a straight if I can. That way I can get my bearings with myself, sewing and whatnot. So I'm going to start sewing right before these clips also. That way they're still held in place where we need them. So I'm going to do a little more than 1/4 inch, a little less than 1/2 inch. I'm basically just lining it up with the edge of the foot right here. Sorry, my fingers are in the way. I'm going to line my fabric up with the edge of the foot. And you can back stitch if you want to there as well. You want to make sure you're stopping with your needle down so that you're not losing your place. And then when you get up to a clip, just make sure everything is lined up and caught. I like to do, like I said, a little bit more than 1/4 inch just to make sure I'm catching everything because this fabric does like to slide on you as you go. And then we're just adjusting everything over as we go too. So that all of our edges are lined up. You can also use a stiletto to help you hold this in place. Like this, these edges like to roll up. So I will sometimes, you see how much easier and then my finger's not up in there. And then when we get up to our strap, I'm coming up to my strap here. We are going to actually stitch and back stitch a couple times. Let me make sure I'm lined up on the bottom. So we went forward, and you can either just back stitch, or I like to actually turn everything around so that I can stitch over the same line. With this fabric, it sometimes will want to like shift off to the side and not stitch back over where you were at. So I like to just turn it around and then just stitch back over my lines. And then just keep on going. There we go. I hope y'all can see that my hand's not in the way. I'm trying to make sure that this hand is pushed down, but I'm trying to hold it as well. Take this guy out. And just make sure if you need to. So my needle is down and my foot raises up a little bit, but sometimes when you have some bulky fabric, you need to raise it up just a little bit more. So if you hit the presser foot up button one more time, just once, not twice, because if you lift it up twice, the needle will come up. Just once, you can get that bulk of fabric under there. Because when I was coming up to that seam, oh, I'm getting caught now. It was not wanting to go under my foot because it was so bulky there. So just another little tidbit trick. I'm going to move my band further back a little bit in here. Come on. Get back under there. There we go. And just keep going around. My bottom piece is wanting to curl under. And again, I mentioned minky fabric is super forgiving. So if you're not super straight on your curve, it is okay. So we're back up to our band. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to go backwards and forwards. That way where you're putting that tension on your band, it's held in securely. And back at the beginning, we're just going to reverse just a little bit and forward. And cut that. There we go. Okay. Let's switch back here. So what we're going to do now, you've got your mask, and you can snip these edges if you want. If you're using regular fabric, you could use pinking shears. You could use a seam and overcast stitch to keep it from fraying, things like that. But for this, it's not really going to fray. It's going to fuzz everywhere. I'm going to have it all over my face and make me sneeze. But then what we're going to do, let me switch over here so you can see me. We are going to flip this right side out. The little pocket opening. Just like that. And there you go. There's your mask. Let me push my fingers to get the curves out. Super quick, super easy. A great gift to give somebody. This would be a great gift for college students that are going off to school right now, things like that. So there's your mask. And then we have our little packet, our little rice packet that can go inside of it. I'm not going to sew this up today. It's pretty simple and easy. You're going to take that same template you used. I didn't make it any smaller because it's going to bulk up when you put the rice in it. But you're going to put these right sides together. And I like to leave the opening on the straight edge. It's easier to turn under a straight edge than it is a curved. So just another little tidbit trick. So leave a little opening about 2-3 inches right there. Sew all the way around. You want to back stitch them forward at the beginning and end. You're going to flip it right side out. And then I have this little, I got this from one of my little sewing friends a while back when we were making pin cushions. But it's a little funnel. You can get them at Walmart or a place like that in like that section with all of their kitchen stuff. And then you just put that in the opening, fill it up with rice. Be careful that you don't fill it up too much. Because if you fill it up too much, it's not going to fit in here very well. So let's put it in here. If you fill it up too much, you're going to have a lot of bulk. And I like to shake everything down into the one end that it's already in. And then move this guy. And move him up into the other side. Might help if I moved it out of the way instead of trying to push it into the fabric. And you just work it in. And see, the second one that I did, this is actually the second one that I did, I didn't fill it as much. And it fit a lot easier into here. So once you get that in there, like that, then you can shake it through to the other side. Just like that. And there you go. There is your eye mask that you can cool and have the pressure for your migraines, headaches, things like that. I love it. Super quick and easy. Any questions on this before we move on to the next thing? You doing good? All right, so next we are going to make the little headband. So this is great for let me switch over here. I don't wash my hair every time I take a shower, but I always put my facial stuff on, and so I want my hair out of my face. And then my daughter likes to put lotion on and do all of her little pampering. She's 5, so we don't do that much, but she's way more girly than me, so she likes having her hair out of her face and doing this. So just the headband to keep your hair out of your face when you're doing your nighttime routine, morning routine, anything like that. So that's what we're going to make next, those little bands. So what you're going to want for this guy, I wrote down my measurements. Again, this is a personal choice for the length and things like that. So again, my head measured 22 inches. So my strip here, because again, I want it to have a lot of this ruffle. You want it to at least be what your head is, and I would always add more. So I'm actually at 38 inches is what my strip is here. So it's quite large, and I had to sew 2 pieces together here. Again, I'm using scraps, but minky, you can't necessarily, and then once you scrunch it up, you're not even gonna be able to see that seam. It's very forgiving. So we have this piece for our strap, and then we have our bow piece, which you don't have to do a bow if you don't wanna do a bow. You could do it definitely without a bow and still have the same effect. And then our bow piece is going to be 6 inches by 8 inches. And then this is the little strip for the bow in the middle right here. And this is going to be 3 inches by 4 inches. So what we're going to do is for this one, that middle piece for the bow, we're going to sew straight across and then flip it. For our bow piece, we are going to sew, stop here, reinforce, start here and sew around, and then we're going to flip that. And then for this one, we are going to sew these ends together. So you have your one long strip. We're going to sew our ends together, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to put it all together. So let's do all of these seams first. So we have our little bow piece. Hold on here. We're working around cords. And I'm just going to line it up again with the edge of my presser foot. Forward, reverse it. And then that's why you never go to the end, like I just said, and I did it again. There you go. Oh, there it goes. Cut that. So this is our bow loop piece. And we're just going to turn that right side out. And again, minky fabric turns super easy. Just like that. And then we are going to do our bow piece. So we're going to start at the end at our fold. And we stop with our needle down. I'm going to go one more stitch. That way the presser foot rises up and I can easily turn my fabric. Love this. And back stitch. And for this, again, minky turns super easy, so you don't need a huge opening. So I just have about an inch, inch and a half there. Go back. I'm like hitting this. What is up with my button tonight? I'm hitting this the wrong times, apparently. There it goes. And then straight down up and cut. And then you can snip your corners. We'll do that here in a second, but I'm going to sew this next piece. So we have our long strip. And again, these are 4 inches wide. I'm going to sew the ends together, right sides together here. And will you repeat the material you used for the rice bag? Yes, 1 second. Okay, let's switch over here. And I will show you. I bought this Solarize insulating thermal barrier fabric, and it keeps things hot or cold. I definitely would not put this in your microwave, but I don't know. Maybe people like to have warm on their eyes. I like to have that cold feeling. So it keeps the rice colder longer. It's like having an insulated cooler or something like that to keep everything cool. But I got this off of Amazon. It came in this little package just like this, and it's 3/4 of a yard long, 22 inches wide. So it's not a big piece, but you can definitely get a lot out of it. I've cut 3 masks out of it, and I still have plenty more. So we have our bow piece here. I'm going to snip my corners and clean up my edges here that I did not line up well when I first started. There we go. And we're going to just flip it. You can sew up this if you want to, but I did not. When you place it in between your headband and your middle piece, it will line up right there in the middle. So it's really not, it's going to scrunch together right there in the middle. So it's not necessary if you don't want to sew that closed right there. But there's your little bow piece. And then for this piece, we are going to, again, our right sides are together. So we have one long loop here is what we have here. What we're going to do is we are going to roll up the inside of this and pin these guys together. We're going to do a continuous tube. Where are my clips at? They're over here. We're going to do a continuous tube to sew this together. So it's super easy. I'm going to show you how we're going to feed it through and do this. So we're going to leave a little opening though too, because we need to put elastic in here. I'm actually going to we're going to start down this way. I'm going to put one more down here. There we go, just like that. Alrighty. Dropping my needles. I'm going to take out this first clip, and we want to make sure that the inside piece that we rolled up is not in our seam. So just shove all that back in there, make sure it's out of the way. And line this up here. We're going to start. And we just need to remember that when we get to the other side, we don't want to come all the way to the end. We want to stop and backstitch. So I'm going to backstitch a little bit here because we're going to have to turn it through that hole. There we go. And we are just lining up our edges. Let me get my stiletto out again. It's super helpful. Line up our edges and sewing along and making sure that our inside piece that is rolled up is not getting caught in this seam that I have here. Just like that. See that in there? We want to make sure that we're not catching that inside. And when we get here, what we're going to do is we are going to, am I backed up enough? Let me see if I back up. There you go. Y'all can see me a little bit more here. We're going to pull this through that inside piece that we had, and then we're going to keep sewing here until we get all the way back around. Let's stop before we get to the end. Y'all following along? Y'all doing good? Any questions? Oh, it came off a little bit there. Any tips or tricks or anything you have for working with minky that I haven't mentioned maybe? I know that there's lots of different ways out there. And then we're going to pull our tail through. Just keep on going. Pulled a little bit too much, so I pulled it out of place. There we go. Where am I at here? There it is. Getting to the end here. You can tell. All right, come on, tail. There it goes. I was getting a lot of tension back at the other end. It's a slow and steady pace that you're going because, again, you're working with minky and you can't really clip this as you go because it's turning in on itself. So just work with it as it goes. Just making sure it's unrolled and it's lined up, and it'll work with you. I think I'm coming. Actually, here we go. I'm almost to the end. Here's my end right here. So I'm going to sew just a little bit more here. And we are going to back stitch and forward. And again, I don't like doing backwards with minky because it like goes off to the side. It never wants to go back over the line that you had. So, all right. Then what we're going to do, we're going to flip this right side out. So we're going to pull this end out over here. And there we go. We have one continuous loop here. And there's my opening. And we're going to put our elastic through there. So same thing with the elastic. I just take the end and feed it through. I don't have like a set, this is the length that I use or anything like that. I like to just figure out what works best for whoever I'm making this for. So we are going to just go all the way around. And I'm using my little forceps that I got offline. You can use a straight pin, anything like that, to feed it all the way around. Let's see, I don't think I'm going to be able to get it all the way around there. With these guys, hold on. I'm going to see if I can hold it and still feed this through. There we go. And I'm going to stick these guys through here and grab that elastic. If I can feel for it. Where did it go? There it is. Get it? Did I get it and not get any minky? Nope, I got some minky. Hold on. There we go. And there's our end. Super easy. So I obviously don't want this. This is not all scrunched and stretched together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this first piece here. Let me get a pin. Where did I put them at? Right here. I'm going to pin this first guy together here. And then what I'm going to do, not poke myself first. I want to make sure that this is all straight all the way through before I start pulling it, because I don't want like a looped up elastic as I'm doing this. So there we go. And you don't want it to be looped when you sew it all together either. So that is obviously way too tight there. So I'm going to let some of that elastic go back through there. And check that out there. That looks good there too. So you just eyeball it, and you can definitely put it on your head to see if it fits your head, if it feels too tight, too loose, things like that. But I think that's pretty good. This one is actually for my daughter, so hers can be a little bit tighter and it'll be all right. I'm going to take that pin out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my 2 pieces of elastic together. I'm going to overlap them here, and we are going to sew and back stitch and reinforce that all there. Okay. So I'm going to try and do this with my headband on the back so y'all can see what I'm doing here. You could do a straight stitch. You could do a zigzag. I'm going to switch to a zigzag here. A zigzag. I just think it secures elastic a little bit more. So I'm going to start in the middle, go back, forward, and do this a couple times. And back one more. Stop, and we're going to cut that there. So there we go. And then we're going to cut off our excess elastic we have here. And there's our headband. And you can just even out your fabric. Again, this is where if you want a longer piece, like I said, I use 38 inches. You could definitely use more if you want it more ruffled, or if you need a bigger band or shorter band, whatever it may be. And then we are just going to close this here. So this closed here. And again, it's minky, it's very forgiving, and we can even put our bow here. So I'm not even going to worry about hand stitching this together. I'm just going to do a straight stitch across this right now. So let me get it all lined up on the inside. So we want to make sure our elastic is not in the way, because we don't want to sew through our elastic when we sew this closed. So we're just going to go right on the edge here. Oh, I need to switch back to a straight stitch. There we go. There you go. All right. And there it is. We're going to snip our threads here. And I'm using white thread, and you still can't really even see it through minky. I love minky. Oh, y'all, let me switch my camera. I'm sorry. I was using white thread. I was showing you, and you can't even see where my white thread is because it just falls into the minky. So there we go. There is our headband there. So now what we're going to do, we are going to sew this middle piece for our bow, this part here. We are going to sew it right over the middle of that opening we just had there. So it's clipped together just like this, and we're going to sew right here. And you can do, you can go back and forth if you want, completely up to you. There it goes. And I'm not worried too much about it because we're going to flip it right side, or flip this wrong side in, flip the seam side in. I'll show you. Let me cut my threads here really quick. Get them out of the way. If I ignore them, they'll just get in the way and bother me, so I can't ignore them. Okay, so I've got my raw edge seam there, but all you have to do is flip it, and then you don't even see it. And it's right over the seam that we did to close up where our band opened. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take our bow, and, just depending on what side you want, we're just going to scrunch it together, but it's really not going to matter. We're going to push this through. We're going to push one of the corners through. And again, we have that opening. It's going to be right in the middle, so I'm not worried about that either. It's a little tight, and you want it to be so that it'll hold it. But then you just sort of adjust it where you want it, just like that. And it hid all of our seams, all of that extra. Look at that. Super cute. Lola is going to love it, my daughter. So there you go. Any questions on that right now? Before I've got one more thing I want to show you. And we are doing really good on time. So if y'all are good, we're going to do one more thing. Switch it back over here. So not everybody's into the bows. I get that. My daughter, she's been into bows. We're in the South. We love bows. So I have this another band that I wear. This is just one that I wear on an everyday, not every day because I don't wear it to work, but like in the evening, things like that to get my hair out of my face when I get home. It's just an easy knit headband. So, but it's got the little twist in it. So I wanted to show you another easy way to make one. You could definitely do this with Minky as well because Minky does have a stretch to it. You want to make sure that you're doing it on the stretch lengthwise if you choose to use Minky. But I'm just using a knit fabric today for this one. So I have this measured out to 6 inches by 20 inches is what it is. And again, my head's 22.5 inches. So you want it to be just a little bit less, depending on how stretchy your material is. If it's not as much stretchy, you may want it to be closer to that, your head circumference, or it could be like this is super stretchy. So I could actually probably go down another inch, but we're just going to do this for today. So what we're going to do is we are going to sew right sides together along the edge here. Oh, you do have to try sewing with Minky. Minky is, I have a love-hate relationship with Minky, and I can probably say I'm speaking for a lot of people when I say this. Minky is super easy and super forgiving to work with, but it is so messy. It's so messy, and there's little frilly things everywhere. Yes, Minky's great in the winter too, nice and warm. So whenever I do Minky, my friends, when we go on our sewing retreat, we do Minky at the sewing retreat. So we leave all of our mess there. And I love Minky kits because everything's already pre-cut. You don't really have to do any cutting. But yes, Minky, I don't do a lot of it in my house because it's messy and like I feel like it gets on my face and it tickles my face and I just can't do all of that. So use Minky sparingly or have a vacuum set up ready to suck everything as you're cutting it out. But we have Minky blankets all over my house. All of my kids have a Minky blanket. We love Minky. So I definitely love it, but I hate sewing with it some days. So we're going to take our strip and sew all the way down here. All right. Again, you could do a 1/4 inch seam or you could do, whatever you want it to be. There's no right or wrong. So I'm going to do something a little bit different here though. I'm actually going to do a seam and an overcast stitch. And I am using a knit fabric, not a woven fabric. So keep that in mind. So on your machines, on the Husqvarna Viking machines, we have the option to choose. I'm going to switch over here. You have the option to choose a knit or a woven fabric. So I'm going to choose a knit fabric today, a knit medium, a stretch medium. And then I'm going to choose a seam and an overcast. So you have a seam, and that is putting 2 pieces of fabric together. And then you have an overcast. And what you do with an overcast is on one piece of fabric, like on one layer of fabric, you do it on the edge and it keeps your fabric from fraying. And then you have a seam and an overcast. So that's the 3rd stitch. You have all of these basic stitches. Your first 9 stitches, I think there are on most of our Husqvarna Viking machines. These are what they are. You have a seam, overcast, and then the 3rd one's going to be a seam and an overcast. And I like doing that on the edge of this. This fabric's not really going to fray, but if you have a fabric that frays, this is what I would suggest doing. So we're going to do a seam and an overcast, but I'm going to do it on a stretch medium, not a woven medium, because it's a different stitch. So if you're on your Husqvarna Viking machine or next time you get to it, choose a seam and overcast and then toggle back and forth between a stretch medium and a woven medium. And you're going to see a different stitch, a different foot, everything. And I love that our machines give us all of that information right here on the screen. So just my little tidbit of advice and suggestion next time you're sewing. So let's switch back over here. And so it wants me to use an A foot, and I'm actually going to scoot this over because I want my overcast to come right to the edge of my fabric. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Not out in. So y'all can see I'm going right here along the edge. But this is a stretch stitch so that when I use this, it can still have that stretch and I don't break those stitches. So that's the biggest thing with it. I have my IDF engaged in the back as well. Let's make sure my needle's down. I'm not sure why he's not engaged. And then, yeah. So all the way across. Do you have any questions specifically on the sewing advisor or anything that I mentioned with stretch versus woven and the stitches and whatnot? Just let me know. That's one of my favorite things about our machine is I can just tell it what kind of fabric I'm doing and what I'm trying to accomplish. And it's going to take all the thought away and give me the exact stitch that I need and then tell me what foot I should be using as well. So it's telling me I should be using the A foot. Get my ends lined up here. And I'm going to show you this stitch. So this is like it's like a down arrow. I don't even want to call it a lightning bolt stitch, but it's like a down zigzag stitch, sort of. I don't know if you can really tell there. But if I were to switch to a woven medium and I have a seam and overcast, it is going to be a more straight overcast stitch. There is a difference. You use a different foot. Also, so many differences to it. So I love just try that and choose different fabrics, different stitches, and see what your machine tells you should do. So we are going to, does the setting in the sew advisor also apply while in embroidery mode? No, you don't. No, not for just embroidery. It depends on the stabilizer that you're using, and then needles really is where that comes into play with that. Does that make sense? We have next month is National Sewing Month, I think is what it is, Amy. September is. And so Mickey, and I'm going to mention these lives here in a minute, but Mickey and Karen are going to be doing lives on different sewing techniques. So the first one's going to be sewing hacks and tips and tricks, and then the next one's going to be embroidery. And I believe Karen's going to touch on, different types of fabric for different types of stabilizer and all of that type of thing. So here we go. And I just flipped it right side out just like that. I'm going to switch back over here. We want our seam to be right in the middle. So I have that in the middle there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half with my right sides out. So I've got my seam out here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset it. So if you can see that there, here is the bottom piece, the top and the bottom. And then here's the top piece, the top and the bottom there. Can you see that? How I have them offset. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of them. You can see it probably better there. I'm going to take this bottom one and fold it inward. And then this back one, and I'm going to fold it back. So I'm sandwiching them into each other. So let me show you that one more time. So I have them offset like this, and I take one and I take the bottom and fold it over the top piece, and then I take the top piece and fold it over the back side there, just like that. And then we are going to do a stretch stitch, but we're going to do it at a curve, not at a straight. And the reason I say to do it as a curve is because when you flip it, the curve, you see how the curve is kind of hidden? But if you have a straight one, you're going to have little corners poking out on the sides, and we don't really want that. So just like that. Here we go. So I'm going to go back to my sewing advisor. I'm going to choose stretch medium, and I'm just going to do a seam for this one. So it's just a straight stitch, but it's actually more of like a zigzag lightning bolt stitch, so that when I stretch this, I won't break the stitches the way you would if you were using just a regular straight stitch. And I do. Yay. I'm so glad. This is one thing I forgot, Amy. I just thought about this. So when you start this, if you notice my foot, the front of it's raised up and the back is raised down. I'm going to take my little seam, my little hump jumper. What else do we call it? What's the other word? I'm losing my clearance plate. Thank you. Clearance plate. I'm going to put that behind it, and look at that now. It's going to make my foot level. So I just put it right behind it, and then I'm gonna just sew at a curve. And there's no right or wrong to this curve. I'm just curving as I go. And then when I get back around to the front, I'm gonna start to go down with my foot. So we're gonna put this just in the front here until we get off of our fabric. That way it kept our foot at the same height. And that again is your sensor system in there that helps keep everything in your tension all level. Love that feature. So there we go. We have a little bit of a curve here, and then we're going to cut off this excess. Let me see. Did I bring any good scissors? I only brought my little ones over today, so we're going to have to make them work. So just cut right at that curve there, and then we're going to flip it. Cut my threads too. We don't want any threads hanging out. Flip it and then just adjust it, and there you have that little knot. It looks like a little knot, and there is your headband, just like that. So super quick and easy. A great headband just to keep your hair out of the way when you're at home, or just doing anything where you want your hair out of the way. So, are there any questions? I hope y'all enjoyed this tonight. I know this is something new that we did. I was really excited to do a nighttime live. I know Amy and Ryan were excited to hang on with me late tonight. So if there's not any other questions, I want to thank you again for joining us on this sewing at night thing. If you enjoyed it, let us know. We will probably do some more nighttime lives. I know some of the other educators were excited about them too. So definitely something we will add into our future schedule of lives. But let me tell you when our next lives are. Our next Husqvarna Viking live is Wednesday, September 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. It's with Mickey. And this is, again, starting National Sewing Month that I mentioned earlier. So she's going to give different tips and tricks for sewing projects, specifically sewing and things like that. And then we'll have another one on the 2 Wednesdays after with Karen, and she's going to do tips and tricks for embroidery. So we're just going along with the theme of National Sewing Month, And then our next My Sewnet Live is Wednesday, September 13th, again with Mickey at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. And she will be going over ways to incorporate embossing with the software. So I know people are always looking for that like underlay for designs and whatnot. So I think she's going to go over some of that type of thing as well. So I hope y'all can join us for those. You can find all of those on both of those pages as well. And you can show that you're interested in them and RSVP so that you get those reminders the day of or that they're coming up as well. So if there's not any other questions, again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope we had some more people that were able to join that normally can't because it's the middle of the day. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much.